Hi people, it's Archivist here, and today I'm going to be doing a comparison video between the 16-inch and 13-inch MacBook Pros. So this is a weird one because I am no traditional tech reviewer. I just talk about the things I own, and it's crazy that I've ended up with two of these devices. I remember, if you just go back a decade really, it was a dream to own just one MacBook, but it's great as you get older and start being able to earn your own money that you can actually start buying these devices. But I didn't really intend to have a 13-inch and a 16-inch. It sort of happened in a weird way where in the middle of the year, I really wanted to buy a MacBook Pro, and I got the 13-inch, and then the 16-inch sort of came out of nowhere, and it looked super appealing to me. Everyone was raving about it. So I decided to get one of these as well. My original intention was to sell the 13-inch to make up the losses there because it's quite expensive, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I couldn't bring myself to get rid of this 13-inch MacBook Pro because on paper, you might like to say that the 16-inch MacBook Pro is objectively the better device, and indeed, in many ways, it is. But you know what? There are some serious legitimate reasons beyond budget that someone might choose the 13-inch MacBook Pro. And if someone put a gun to my head and said, look, you need to give up one of these devices, I am inclined to say I would give up the 16-inch, as crazy as that sounds. Because the 13-inch MacBook Pro is a seriously reliable, compact and powerful device. And although I recognise all of the advantages that the 16-inch MacBook Pro provides, I'm not sure they are substantial enough to the point where I would consider it the outright improvement. So let's look at a few key areas that the average Mac user might care about. So I think the main one would have to be power. And okay, so on the 16-inch MacBook Pro, on this model, we're looking at an i9, 16GB of DDR4, and a powerful AMD Radeon GPU, which is a lot more powerful than the i5 quad-core 8GB of RAM and integrated Iris CPU on the 13-inch. But in real-world use, in actually using the device, I have to admit I see no shortcomings in the 13-inch MacBook Pro from a power perspective. The only way I could really measure a meaningful difference was to export a 4K video 10 minutes long, and it did take about twice as long to export on the 13-inch, but the thing is, that sounds impressive. Wow, my 16-inch MacBook Pro is twice as fast as exporting as the 13-inch, but in reality, if we're talking about 10 minutes versus 20 minutes to export a video, it's not in a real world situation that meaningful. A lot of people seem to think that it is like that 10 minutes, that 10 minutes that you could go off and make some tea or eat something or just check what's on TV. That is not what's going to make the difference to a video producer, because you're going to get everything nailed and everything right in your timeline, and you're going to review it and you're going to check it in the preview before you export it. So the export time, even if it is twice as fast as I'm noticing on the 16-inch MacBook Pro, I'm not sure that in and of itself is a massive advantage. It is nice, it is impressive for sure, but is it something that would compel me to go out and spend so much more money for such a bigger device? One area that, okay, to be fair, the 16-inch is much better is gaming. And the only game I really play now on my Macs is World of Warcraft, although it is a really good choice in terms of comparing devices because it's a super scalable game. You can reduce the settings to the point where it will run on the crappiest netbook, but you can then turn it up to the point where it will cripple even the most powerful GTX 1080 Ti. I say that from experience. I cannot run this game at max settings on my mainline 1080 Ti PC. So it's a really scalable game, so it's a fantastic way of comparing the capabilities of a device. And I will admit the 16-inch is so much more capable of running World of Warcraft. It can run it at, I think, twice the power settings while maintaining the same frame rates. That said, on the 13-inch MacBook Pro, with the screen being that much smaller, I don't need the graphics to be as good to appreciate it, and it is a very capable device. I can run World of Warcraft at medium settings at a slightly lower than native resolution and get 60 FPS pretty reliable outside of raid situations, which if you're a WoW player you'll understand. So The 13-inch, while not as capable as the 16-inch from a gaming perspective, is definitely a capable device. It's just not quite up there. Another difference that is worth pointing out, and I will admit the 16-inch is much better at, is the speaker quality. The speakers on the 16-inch MacBook Pro are insanely good. They are incredible. They're actually better than my dedicated 4K monitors speakers. They are something else. And the 13-inch, for a 13-inch device, are really, really good. But the 16-inch are out of this world good. So if you're someone who likes to play music or watch videos out of their speakers quite a lot, which admittedly I do, then you'll really appreciate the speaker improvement on the 16-inch MacBook Pro. It is just... Again, it is crazy. I cannot lavish enough praise upon the speakers on this device. But again, when we come back to real world use and you say you're watching a video, you're listening to music, unless you directly compare the devices, it's not super obvious. I am very much satisfied with the speaker quality on the 13-inch. It's just that the 16-inch goes above and beyond. And again, if you're someone who is a professional and is editing audio to a professional quality, chances are you're probably using headphones anyway. So arguably for the professional, it's a bit of a moot point. It's more for the prosumer like me who likes to edit using the internal speakers, just because I don't necessarily love to have earphones in all the time. And that is the thing, it's just a device. The 13-inch MacBook Pro should not be underestimated. I think the real time that they changed the game on the 13-inch devices was when they swapped over to quad cores. So although it is an i5, it's a quad core, and I never feel as if it's a slow device. I've never used it and thought, oh wow, I really missed the smooth power performance from my 16-inch. Like, I like it when I notice it on the 16-inch, but I don't really miss it because the 13-inch is so capable. And something I can talk about from a sort of semi-professional perspective, I do it mostly hobbyist. I'm not a professional, but I use video editing quite a lot in Final Cut Pro. And there's a little bit of a secret of Final Cut Pro that Apple sort of don't want you to know, but they've optimized Final Cut Pro so well for Mac devices that you can go to a 12-inch MacBook, although to be fair, they're not really being sold anymore, so we'll jump up to a MacBook Air. You can go to a MacBook Air and you can still edit 4K videos and be pretty much fine. So when people say that you need to get a 16-inch MacBook Pro or previously a 15-inch MacBook Pro in order to edit 4K videos effectively, that's not really true. It certainly makes it easier, but the 13-inch MacBook Pro is more than capable of editing at 4K and doing it efficiently. The thing is, I noticed in my long, I think about 8 or 9 years of using MacBooks now, the only significant change I noticed in terms of improvement when it came to iMovie and Final Cut Pro was when I switched from a conventional 5400 RPM hard drive to the SSDs of the Retina MacBook Pro, and ever since then I've never had a MacBook Pro that has been weak in video editing. Even the 12-inch MacBook that I used to own was good at it, and the SSD speeds across the board are fantastic on MacBook Pros. So if you're thinking about video editing or photo editing, then you've just got no concerns with the 13-inch MacBook Pro. So it's an interesting one, because the 13-inch is so capable that for most people it's going to be absolutely fine. And I haven't really talked about it yet because it is sort of obvious, but there is something to be said for the portability factor of the 13-inch MacBook Pro. If I want to walk around my house or go outside and bring it with me, the 13-inch is the go-to. It's so much lighter, so much, well, it's a little bit thinner, but you can notice it. That is an added benefit against a 16-inch for sure. Whereas the 16-inch is something I'm more likely to use on my desk. It's more like a desktop replacement for me. So for most people, the 13-inch MacBook Pro is going to be fine. And I will say one final thing on this matter, because a lot of people might think, well, wait a second, you haven't mentioned the keyboard difference. That's a big improvement, is it not, in the 16-inch MacBook Pro, because they've gone back to scissor switches. Well, let me be real, guys. The final generation of Butterfly keyboard was really good. The only reason I think they changed was because the Butterfly name was tarnished, like there was no recovering their reputation on that. But the Butterfly keyboard they used in the final iteration of the 2019 MacBook Pro is good. Look, if you hate low travel keyboards, then it's not going to do anything to change your mind, but in terms of reliability and quality and responsiveness, there are no issues with the 13-inch keyboard. Please do not let that be the reason you don't get one. Like if you're thinking, I want to get the 13-inch, it's what I can afford, it's what I need, but I don't want to get the keyboard, please just don't worry about that. The Butterfly keyboard on the latest MacBook Pro's 13-inch is absolutely fine. They really nailed it in the end. It is now more of a preferential reason to choose one or the other. I mean, if you really want to get a higher travel keyboard, then yes, the 16-inch is the way to go, but there is no quality reason not to go for the 13-inch. So those are my thoughts on 13-inch versus 16-inch. It hasn't been the most in-depth comparison. It's been more of just the general user impressions. If you have the budget for a 13-inch and you want to go for it, but you're worried about losing out on the power of the 16-inch, I really wouldn't worry. I think it's a really capable device. And put it this way, guys, I've never met a 13-inch MacBook Pro owner who wasn't extremely satisfied with it. So if you want a future-proof, if you want the bigger screen and you want the better speakers, because the speakers are better, go for 16-inch. But otherwise, guys, you will be absolutely fine with the 13-inch MacBook Pro. As always, people, thanks very much for watching and see you next time.